This episode is brought to you by FX's The Beauty Official Podcast. Join host Evan Ross Katz on the official podcast for FX's hottest new series, The Beauty, taking you behind the scenes with its amazing stars as they discuss the show's most jaw-dropping moments. Featuring Evan Peters, Anthony Ramos, Jeremy Pope, Ashton Kutcher, Rebecca Hall, Bella Hadid, Meghan Trainor, Isabella Rossellini, Jessica Alexander, and Ari Grainer. Search FX's The Beauty wherever you listen to podcasts.
And now, a special edition of the Toddcast podcast.
Powered by Citywide Mortgage Services, providing complete financing and mortgage services for residential and small commercial businesses. Visit them at citywidemortgage.ca.
Now, here's your host, Todd Hancock.
And with that, we start year 12 of the Toddcast, or roughly 10 and a half years longer than I thought I would do. It's just one of those things, right? You start something up, not exactly sure where it's going to go. And the next thing you know, 382 podcasts are done, over 1,000 interviews, over 100 live shows with local Vancouver indie bands, interviewing them, they perform. So this week, it's a best of. Let's get you caught up on some of our recent guests, although this does go back to the summer, like July through September-ish. You'll hear interview highlights from 9 guests this episode. In sports, a man who teaches calm under fire. Puck seemed to kind of slow down when he's watching. Another, a third baseman, quick hands, quicker instincts, and the other runs the piggy room. Sundays do not move until he says so. In entertainment, an author who writes like he's settling a score with the truth. Another is a voice that lingers after the lights go out. And the other spent a lifetime living the spy life. And you'll hear from this week's musical guests in just a second, an icon of Canadian rock frontman. Decades in. Another is built for volume and lives for the surge, and she is Melody First, an up-and-coming American singer-songwriter. Great to have you along. Thanks for being there. My name is Todd Hancock. We should say thanks to our sponsors for allowing us the freedom to keep making these podcasts for you, like our title sponsor, Citywide Mortgage Services, good friends of the podcast. I know one of the owners, Dara. He helped me renew my mortgage last year, and I couldn't have been in better hands. Like, got a great rate first off, locked in. I'm dialed for the next few years. I'm one of those guys that needs to know how much is coming out every couple of weeks. I can't do the variable rates. And if you've been paying attention, you know that the Bank of Canada dropped the key interest rate. It's a good time to buy, renew, refinance. Citywide has been in the game for decades. You never feel like a number. You deal with real life people who actually care about your well-being. And the key thing is that they work for you, not the big banks. They're independent. They have access to over 30 lenders, buying, renewing, refinancing. Even if you've been turned down somewhere else, they'll usually find a way to make it work. If trust matters to you, this is the call. Citywidemortgage.ca. Citywidemortgage.ca. It's who I trust. It's who I use for my mortgages. Okay, so coming up in just a few minutes in Listen to This, UFC Octagon announcer Bruce Buffer shares the story of his road to the UFC. That is powered by Tedco RV Supplies in Langley. RV service, repairs, they are ICBC accredited. You want to talk indie loyalty? They're 10-year sponsors. 10 years straight, no breaks. Tamra and her team have been on for since the start, pretty much. Key that we're keeping on. You can find them online, kicking around on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter from time to time. Where else? At Tedco RV Supplies. First, our first guests and highlights from some recent musical guests. So mid-July, give me an R. Helix, their singer, Brian Vollmer, jumped to Zoom with us. Remember back in the day where you would see videos for Rock You all over Friday night videos or Good Rockin' Tonight. There's Van Halen, there's Michael Jackson, Duran Duran, Helix, superstars in the 80s. And as it turns out, it was Brian's first serious band.
Well, Helix really was my first serious band. I was in a little high school thing, but we never really played anywhere except the high school.
Wow.
And those guys went and entered us in the Battle of the Bands at the COE in Kitchener, Ontario, which was sponsored by Sherwood Music. And we basically were laughed away when I came down with my little high school band. But we were approached by a couple of musicians from Kitchener, Bruce Arnold, Ron Watson, and they wanted us to be in a band that they were forming. And so I was moving there after grade 13 anyway, to work at Snyder's Meats. I had a little short stint in the Ontario Youth Choir. The Ontario Youth Choir, by the way, was 50 kids that were picked from 500 applicants across Ontario from high schools, universities, and the best choir students. And I got lucky and I got picked. And we opened up Hamilton Place with Galt McDermott on piano, who wrote Hair. We had Aretha Franklin's band. We had Noel Carter and Al Nicholson from Jesus Christ Superstar, Salome Bay.
Wow.
Then I went in and worked at Snyder's Meats on the night shift. And I stocked the shelves. I made cardboard boxes. I did all sorts of jobs. And I couldn't stand it after a while. And I eventually went on the road. I sold my brand new car and bought a $25 Ford Galaxy with Bondo red fenders. And I went on the road and I never looked back. And I picked up Del Shannon, with that $25 Ford Galaxy with the Bondo red fenders and the snow tires on in the middle of August at Pearson International Airport. And I remember going down the 401, and anybody that's ever been in a 67 Ford Galaxy knows the hood's about a mile long. And I was doing about 85 miles an hour down the 401, and Del Shannon was holding on for dear life. And he said, look at, he said, if you stop, I'll buy you a steak dinner. If you slow down, I'll buy you a steak dinner. So that's what we did.
So he goes, 50 kids were picked from 500 applicants across Ontario from high schools and universities. Pretty cool that Brian was picked. And you may find this hard to believe. He says he didn't grow up in a musical house. He did say that his grandfather was his influence in music, and talks about growing up to the music of Johnny Cash and the Guess Who. He talked about meeting Joe Cocker, his book, The Canadian Bar Circuit, touring with Chips Enough, COVID came up, and re-recording Rock You with Todd Kearns, Brent Fitz, and the boys in Took.
Well, the decision to re-record Rock You was really Greg Campbell's idea from the record company, and he brought in the Took guys because I think they were in town doing the second Foo Bar movie. They were doing some event somewhere, a private showing or a private little gig. And so he was able to get them to come in. And they all grew up in Helix, so they had a fondness for me and the music. And I knew some of the guys when I was down in Vegas a couple years previously. Brent and I went out for a supper at, actually, I think the Peppermint Lounge, I think it was called, where Elvis used to go.
Okay.
And then I went down and I jammed with Todd Kearns and a couple of guys from the guitar player for Great White, Mike Lardy. Is that his name?
Okay. What the Sin City Sinners?
And the Sin City Sinners, and I forget the name of the casino so long ago now, but so I knew Todd too. I might have met Phil in previous life, but anyway, when he got there, we were instant friends. And I love the guys playing, of course. All these guys are amazing musicians and singers.
Killer musicians, but like super, super nice guys.
Super nice guys. Todd's got a voice. He can sing where only dogs fear to tread, you know? He can sing. He can sing all that Axl Rose stuff, and he's quite the guy. I think his original band was Age of Electric, and he was from Saskatoon.
That's right. He did Static and Stereo as well, which was a pretty cool band. Yeah. Yeah, they've both been kind of like entrenched in the scene. Like Brent Fitz used to be the drummer of Econoline Crush. He was the drummer in Theory of a Dead Man as well. Of course, he's Slash's drummer now. Like, those are some big players, man.
Big players, and you could tell they're totally professional people too. When we got in the studio to do it, Brent was like focused. He was like, you could just tell by the look on his face. He was, had the project in his mind. He knew exactly what he's going to do. And you can tell professional people when you work with them.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say about that. I got a sense of that when I work with people. Some people, they can't even get the times together. That's like basic stuff.
No doubt, right? They all grew up on Helix, so there was a fondness for me and the music. I mean, who didn't grow up to Helix? If you're Gen X in Canada, you did. As I move you along to a band from Los Angeles called Carbon Wire. So their singer-guitarist Matt Visness is an excellent follow on Instagram. He's one of those guys that shows you how to play songs, but super personable and likable and just a crushing player as well. That's how actually I initially found Matt, was just kind of digging around and loving his videos. His band Carbon Wire is part grunge. There's metal, there's hard rock, just chugs along, very riffy music. And when Matt jumped to Zoom with us, he talked about the first bands to really grab a hold of him.
I think the bands to grab me was, I mean, honestly, it was Metallica for a long time. Yeah. I live under a musical rock. I still listen to the same shit that I did 20 years ago. Yep. Yeah. So, I think the first bands that people showed me were Pink Floyd was the second one after Metallica that I was like, oh my God, what is this? Mm. And then it was Nirvana. I discovered Devin Townsend through I don't know if you know who he is.
Yeah, he's a buddy,
Yep. Discovered him through a friend that I had in high school and listened to him for a long time. And, through Metallica, I found Megadeth and I found Slayer and I found Anthrax. And they were like, those were bands that I liked. They didn't grab me in the same way that Metallica, Nirvana, and Pink Floyd did.
Sure. Would you say that Pantera did?
Pantera? Not so much. They were more like these offshoot bands that I discovered. I was like, yeah, it's cool. It sounds like the same thing that I found in Metallica. It's just a different flavor of that. And I like it. But am I going to listen to it more than Metallica? Does it hit me in the same way right here? No.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's just because I didn't discover them until later. But,
okay.
No kidding, right? I live under a musical rock. I still listen to the same shit that I listened to 20 years ago. Yeah, dude, don't we all? I think most people listening to this podcast would say Metallica, sure. Pink Floyd, yes. Nirvana, yeah. We talked about Eddie Van Halen. Jimi Hendrix came up, social media and marketing his band. The Elvis Experience. We talked Jimmy Page of Zeppelin and playing and singing at the same time.
His work on that, I really like his bluesy stuff. I mean, obviously, Whole Lot of Love and like Black Dog. I don't know how he comes up with the stuff he does. He's another guy that's just like, dude, that man is a conduit for something that is not him.
Oh, for sure. I think if you were to talk to him, he'd be like, oh yeah, no, something takes over.
Yeah. I think a lot of them, there's something about, there's this book that I read, The Man Who Tapped the Secrets of the Universe by, I can't remember who it's by, but it's about this guy called Walter Russell. And he talks about how this creative process is something about a connection to a source. And it's all about like listening for the source. And the source will give you ideas if you're in tune with it. And all you have to do is just like get out of the way with the ego and step aside and let the source kind of speak through you, and then you just kind of do as it's commanded of you. And I can totally see that, because sometimes, I mean, there's just stuff that comes out where you're like, what the hell? Where did that come from? I mean, that doesn't sound like anything. Right?
And you're just hoping at that point, first off, that you're recording it, but then also that you can play it again.
Really, I hope I can sing and play it at the same time. That's the big thing.
I've talked to enough musicians, singer, guitarists, that are like, no, dude, you can't think of the guitar parts. You just fucking play that and you sing. Mm-hmm. You can't think of both, because then you'll just mess it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, straight up. I don't know how he comes up with the stuff that he does. Jimmy Page is simply an alien. And from carbon wire singer to a singer-songwriter named Ren Martinez, grew up in LA. Music is in her blood. Her dad is actor Adolfo Martinez, who you'll know from being a king in daytime soap operas like Santa Barbara, General Hospital, Days of Our Lives. We'll get to more on that in a sec. But Ren studied at USC's Thornton School of Music. She was a guest around the release of her debut album called Fingers Crossed. And we talked about the music that was in her life as a kid growing up, like Jackson Browne, Joni Mitchell, going to concerts at a fairly young age.
My parents, the kind of two main like pinnacles of our household were Joni Mitchell and Jackson Browne. Like those were the two since I was so little. And those, I mean, which are really amazing songwriters to kind of be raised on.
Sure.
And those were kind of the main people my parents were really obsessed with. And we also listened to a lot of Bonnie Raitt. We listened to a lot of the Eagles. So that was kind of the vibe. And then I was, growing up, like I was a tiny kid in the 90s and the early 2000s. And so that was the era of like Britney Spears being absolutely the pinnacle of everything, especially to like a little girl.
Yeah.
So that and Christina Aguilera and all the boy bands and NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys, like that was like the culture for me as a little kid. That's what I loved.
Right.
And
And how old were you when you started going to concerts and stuff like that?
yeah, it's so funny because I've been thinking about all this so much. I just wrote an essay actually kind of about this that I just posted on my Substack. I I would go to concerts with my parents, like with my family. Like I think I saw Jackson Browne when I was really little.
Mm.
And I didn't start really going to stuff on my own until I don't know, maybe I was like around 10,
Mm.
maybe a little bit later. And I just was remembering the first concert I ever went to, that my babysitter's boyfriend's sister
Okay.
got me and my babysitter tickets to see Ryan Cabrera at the House of Blues in Hollywood.
Mm.
And he was kind of this like early aughts like rocker guy, pop singer. And this band called the Click Five that opened for him that I loved, that I was so excited to see.
Mm.
And I then really got into like pop punk and emo, and I loved Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco and Fountains of Wayne and all these bands. Like, so that was kind of my first, like, as I became a little bit more of like a real person, like, that was what I started to kind of get into on my own. And I had loved like Michelle Branch, Avril Lavigne. So always like kind of pop music with like a rock foundation in a way. Like that was kind of always what I gravitated towards.
That's surprising, right? She goes, I don't think I really started going to stuff on my own until I don't know, maybe I was like around 10 years old, which is quite young. Going to shows on your own at 10, it was something like 16, I think, for me, because I remember living in the Okanagan in Summerland and driving to Osoyoos, which is, an hour drive or maybe a bit more, with buddies. We saw the Steve Miller Band. Bryan Adams was there, Extreme, Sash Jordan as well. Anyway, like I said, music's always been in Ren's life. You've heard her music on shows like Hacks, Single Parents, New Girl, Young and the Restless. And back to her dad, Adolfo Martinez, Ren talked about being able to get advice on creativity from him and just how cool that is.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. Like, I think that I've talked to him about it. I'm really close with both of my parents, and my dad and I are so close. And I talked to him about everything, but even just like witnessing it was really powerful.
Mm.
And, growing up, yeah, my dad has had like just an amazing career. And of course, like for an actor, being a working actor is so hard. And I think it's like the idea of what that is, I think is really different than the reality of what it is. And it's a situation where you can be the hardest worker, you can want something so bad, and you can be kind and smart and cool, and you just might not get to do anything for a long time. Like, there are just no guarantees. And, you know, my dad's had his ups and downs, as like, you know, most actors that have been working as long as you have those ups and downs. And it was, I've thought about this a lot as I've gotten older, just being a kid, watching him and his resilience and his passion for what he was doing, and watching just like, even just growing up in a house with somebody who made that decision and made that commitment that they were going to be an artist and a performer. And even if it got really hard, like, that's what he was doing. And it was never a question. And it never, you know, it wasn't a question for him, and it certainly wasn't a question for any of us. Like, it was just like, well, this is dad, and this is what he does.
Dad does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think in a way, like, it was really important for me to see that, because there was things about it that were so incredible and so beautiful and inspiring, and so much that I wanted for myself. But I also, like, it was like a harsh reality a lot of the time also. Like, it was not, you know, there were no illusions for me about how difficult it really is. But at the same time, like, to have a dad, and as he gets older, to have like this father figure in my life who, again, like, he chose the path of an artist. Like, that's what he did with his life. And I think being able to see that even if it's hard, it's possible and it's rewarding, and it allows you to be the person that you want to be. Even if even if everything is not always going how you want it to go, like, you get to be true to yourself. Like, it's a big deal. And not everybody chooses to do that in life. And people have other things that they prioritize and all that. But it's just like, yeah, I feel like it's a rare thing, like what he has done, and I kind of can't even imagine like the true impact that it's had on me, but I'm very aware of what it means to me.
The Toddcast podcast. Find us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and at toddhancock.ca.
In sex and conversation.
And now, listen to this on the Toddcast podcast.
Any MMA fight fan will know Bruce Buffer as the voice of the Octagon for UFC events. It's time! We all know his catchphrase. Bruce is also the president and CEO of the Buffer Partnership, which is also the home to Bruce's half-brother, boxing and pro wrestling ring announcer Michael Buffer. It's pretty cool that they both do ring announcing. Bruce is no stranger to fighting. He holds a black belt in Tang Soo Do and has fought as a kickboxer as well. You've seen him host all UFC fights since UFC 13 back in 1997. More on that in just a sec. Beyond the fights, Bruce is a world-rated poker player on the pro circuit. He was at the televised table at the World Series of Poker main event in 2005 and 2007. And this is cool. The Luxor in Las Vegas named their poker room after Buffer in 2010. And when Bruce was a guest, he shared the story of his road to the UFC. So listen to this.
Well, that's a long story in itself. It's one of the reasons I wrote my book, It's Time, that Random House honored me by publishing, because I wanted to put everything in writing and remember the things that I forgot over the years, because I probably forgot more than I can remember. But, in the early days, watching Michael do his thing, I always had an ambition to be a ring announcer and do the work because I enjoyed public speaking. But I owned two companies, and I was very successful in my companies I was in, but I wasn't passionate about what I was doing. And it was around 1992 that I had an epiphany that this is what I wanted to pursue, and the only way to do it was to go into it full time. So I did that by selling both companies, quitting with the money I had in the bank, taking over Michael's career, managing his career, and becoming partners in everything we did with the trademark, which I the phrase, which I trademarked properly to make sure that it was protected. And then set forth on that adventure, and we agreed I wouldn't do boxing, and I said, that's okay, something will come along. And lo and behold, the UFC came along, and it took me about a year and a half to work my way into that position. You always got to, ask for the job, go for it, and, set out to achieve your goals, which is exactly what I did. And I celebrated 20 years in the Octagon just last February, actually.
Listen to this on the Toddcast podcast is brought to you by Tedco RV Supplies in Langley, an ICBC-approved repair shop. Visit them on Facebook and Twitter at Tedco RV Supplies. And now, highlighting our next Blue Light Sessions, powered in part by Canadian Club Whiskey. Meet your new cold one. We serve Canadian Club and Ginger ready-to-drink cocktails at all of our live shows. Visit CanadianClub.com today.
You could argue that that is their best song. It's called Fighter from the band Spendo. Bartender, actually make mine a double. That's 2 in a row from Spendo. You heard their new one called Standing in the Rain as well. So they're playing our next live show this Saturday on the 31st of January. It's the Blue Light Sessions Volume 46. There's no opening band. So they're doing 2 sets, 45-minute sets. The interview, there's a bunch of new songs. I was hanging out with the band a couple weeks back. And of course, you'll hear all the classics as well. There's only a handful of tickets left. 22 bones right now through eventbrite.ca. Eventbrite, eventbrite.ca. 27 bones if you want to risk it and wait for the door. Doors will open at 7 o'clock. We'll start the show at around 8, something like that. All right. So coming up shortly, and stop me if you've heard this before, Widemouth Mason singer Sean Vereau talks about Saskatoon and specifically Big Sugar's role in his band's success. That is powered by the Home Dwell Group, one of their partners, Kyle, I've known literally since elementary school. He's a full-on nerd when it comes to that world, housing. And I mean, he designed it for decades, houses and buildings that I know for sure that you would know in Vancouver. So he knows if a home is, first off, if it's worth buying, what needs renovations, if it's worth renovating in the first place. He's a stud in that world. Again, another area where trust truly is key. So if you're buying a home or you're selling your house, contact my good friend Kyle through homedwell.ca, homedwell.ca. First, back to more guest highlights in this best of the Toddcast and some recent sporting guests. So mid-July, the goaltending director for the Yale Hockey Academy, Andy Nielsen, was a guest. He's been with the Academy since 2007. He's helping develop goaltenders in Western Canada. His career is impressive. So before getting there, Andy played professionally. He's well known in the industry, in hockey circles, throughout the Lower Mainland for helping develop these kids. So it was cool to get him on and talking about puck. Marc-Andre Fleury came up. The chances of Matthews eventually breaking Ovechkin's goal record, will that happen? Bedard and the Blackhawks, Gretzky gambling on sports, and we made him build the ultimate hockey line with past and present players.
I would say you'd have to have Gretzky in there. And then, you know what, just for giggles, I'd put Sid on one side and Ovi on the other side. Like, how does it get any better than that? Like, I know McDavid, everyone, but I'm sorry. I still, growing up and seeing it, Gretzky was still, you know, and there's no denying Connor McDavid is a generational talent, the speed that he can generate, but I'd still take Gretzky. And then Sid and Ovi. Wow. Could you imagine?
Dude, who's on D?
Ooh. Scott Niedermayer. And you know what? Let's go modern with Cale Makar.
Yeah, that kid's a crusher, hey? No, hold on a second. Not Hughes over Makar?
Yeah,
like what? Didn't Hughes have the fastest recorded time? Like you were just talking McDavid speed, but did Hughes actually have the fastest?
Yeah, you know what? There's no denying it. But then I look at the size factor. And there's a little more sandpaper and grit to his game, kind of a thing. And Quinn Hughes is another one it's insane. His edge control, you know.
Oh, dude, he makes the best look bad.
Oh, it's nuts. It's funny to watch because you know it's coming. And Colby Armstrong did that little thing with him, and he didn't want to give on the couch. Didn't want to give away too much of his stuff, but little punch stops and edge stuff, and it's fun to watch. But just for me, my son played junior against Makar in Alberta, and he just said, Dad, it was ridiculous. He could do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted on the ice when he played with Brooks. So that'd be the guy for me.
Yeah, yeah. And tending?
Ooh.
You're like, hold up. This is my world. Let me show.
It is, but there's, you know what? It's so subjective, too. Because, you can go back to, Billy Smith, who was...
Dude, he just was monstrous.
Yeah, and just an evil attitude. Like, it was kind of neat to see, and Hextall came along and took that a little further. And I don't know, Dominic Hasek, and it's funny because you talk about this as goalie coaches, if you'd probably cut him, the first time you see him, because he's not doing it the right way. But stop the puck, and he did some cool things. But I'm probably going to go with fear. I would like just the money, timely saves, the experiences he had, and again, fun to watch.
Yeah, growing up and seeing it, Gretzky was still, and he goes off, right? Totally. If you grew up watching Gretzky, it's hard to not say he's the greatest of all time, even with Ovechkin breaking his goal record. So we talked about the man between the pipes during Gretzky's run, Grant Fuhr. Andy says, it's the money. It's just timely saves. The experience he had is just fun to watch. We got into other parts of Andy's life as well, like family, seeing Ronnie James Dio and Yngwie Malmsteen in concert, growing up to the music of Conway Twitty, Johnny Cash, and Kiss. Then we got talking about Slapshot, Mighty Ducks, Goon, and what is the best hockey movie of all time?
Slapshot's the one, where it's such an iconic movie, and then you forget about some of the stuff. Like I remember early coaching when my son was coming up, we were taking a bus to a trip in Vernon, and one of the dads go, "Oh, we should put Slapshot on for the boys." And I'm like, "Are you nuts? Do you not remember what's in that movie? These kids are 13." So yeah.
Now, if you want phone calls from parents, that's a good call.
Exactly. And then the other one was Youngblood, right? So Tea with Miss McGillicuddy, right? So
yes, that's right. What is the best hockey movie?
Oh, I don't know, man. Miracle was really good. It's kind of cool that it was shot local, and I know a bunch of the people that were involved in it. Yeah, I would probably say Slapshot's the golden standard for movies, though. The Mighty Ducks ones were great kids, Disney.
Fun for kids,
kind of
but
stuff.
Slapshot's the best. It has to.
Absolutely. And it's, War Memorial, and that was literally the life in the minors, man. Like, especially back in the day, like there was some, the buses and the small town shenanigans. Yeah, exactly. Rite of passage.
Love that. One of the dads was like, "Hey, we should put Slapshot on for the boys." And I was like, "What, are you nuts?" Right? 12-year-old kids watching Slapshot. You got to think some parents would probably take issue with that. As I'll bring your attention now to someone who was a guest in mid-August, Vancouver Canadians third baseman Sean Keys. From a kid chasing a dream, you talk about the relentless grind, right? Proving yourself to everyone, yourself, your team, your coach, scouts, training like crazy, eating right, failing in public, all eyes are on you. And even after all of that, there's no guarantee that you will go pro, right? So listen to Sean talking about when he realized his true potential to make it to the bigs.
Well, honestly, throughout high school, I was a top player. I always felt on any team that I played for and any team we played against. And I was working to be a college player at that point. I didn't even think about the pros. That seemed like kind of foreign in my area. I hadn't heard of many players signing pro. Then a kid a year older than me in high school actually signed and with the Phillies. And then I went to college and started playing well my sophomore year. And that's when I really realized I had a shot. So, yeah.
And what was the biggest change, like, once to get to that college level? Like, was it the speed of the pitcher, just like they didn't make errors? Like, what was the biggest difference you found from like home ball to like college ball?
Yeah, definitely speed of pitches, fastball velocity, and just also having multiple pitches. In high school, a guy's got a fastball and a slider, or a fastball and a changeup, and in college they can have 3 or 4 pitches. And that was definitely I had to navigate that my freshman year, a bit of a adjustment period for me.
He goes, I went to college, started playing well in my sophomore year, and at that level, if you're excelling, you kind of know that something good is happening, right? Sean's new to the team, of course. Last year was his first season, drafted in 2024 by the Jays, 125th overall. We talked about the roar of being at Nat Bailey Stadium, the winning history. He shared stories of the early years of playing ball, cheering on the New York Yankees as a kid. And who are MLB's best players right now?
Right now, Shohei is obviously the biggest thing. He's doing pitching and hitting at the same time.
Crazy.
I know the MLB loves getting it's kind of, baseball is becoming more of a global game with Japan being involved. And they have games that happen all over the place. But Judge is definitely one of them. And I think Vladdy, he just signed with the Blue Jays. He's the nation of Canada is behind the Blue Jays when they play. So Canada Day the other day, that was really cool. and to be a part of that here in Vancouver too. But Vladdy is going to be a Blue Jay for life, so I think he's definitely one of them.
Oh, 100%. Baseball is becoming more of a global game with Japan being involved. You can't talk about the best players in the game without Japan coming into the conversation, right? So in late September, you heard BC Lions president Dwayne Vanneau on the podcast. Imagine the pressure cooker that he's in, making sure that football stays relevant in a hockey market, no less. Every game and every promo, every ticket sold, keeping BC Place buzzing. But Dwayne, it just kind of seems built for it after talking with this guy. A career that spans not only football, but lacrosse and pro cycling. He's been the CFL's chief Grey Cup and events officer. It shouldn't surprise you that he says football has always been in his life.
When I was I think I was about 7 years old. I get asked this all the time, but I think I was about 7 years old. I started going to football games in Edmonton, and the old Knothole gang, which was the Woodwards Knothole gang, which in BC there was the Woodwards Quarterback Club, and so it was the same thing. It was you come in and you get a cheap ticket. You had to go on your bike and pedal to Woodwards with your little patch on your jean jacket to get the ticket, and you go to the games, and yeah. I've been a fan ever since.
So what is your first, like, when you go back to being a little kid, like, what is the first football memory that kind of comes to mind?
I think I don't really, that's a good question. I haven't really ever thought about that, but it's probably just the excitement. It was when you were 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, going to the big game was a big deal. It was the thing to do, and everybody was doing it. They were getting 40, 50,000 people. It was a big event, probably the excitement around the event, and which is sort of funny. Probably half my career I've been in the event business, so maybe I just sort of gravitated to the event world.
I was just gonna say, like, maybe something back then kind of triggered,
Yeah, no one's ever asked me that before, so maybe you just uncovered something.
Straight up love that. You had to get on your bike, pedal to Woodwards with your little patch on your jean jacket to get the ticket, right? Like, quite the picture that Dwayne paints there. So true. Head down to Ticketmaster and wait in the line like everybody else. And so now he's steering the ship, of course, with the BC Lions since 2022. Before that, he was the COO of the Edmonton Elks. So Dwayne was open about talking about pretty much anything and everything, truly, like binging Dexter, growing up to the music of Ozzy and Van Halen, booking the pre-game or the in-game entertainment like Snoop Dogg. How does that happen? Netflix's F1 series, we talked about that. He shared a near-death RCMP story. And what is the BC Lions' long-term goals?
Our long-term vision is, obviously, every year we want to win championships, and so in our business plan every year, it's funny, win the Grey Cup. So obviously that every team wants to do that, but we really try to do everything we possibly can do to support our football ops department to be able to have all the tools in the toolbox to go out and win championships. So that's a bit. We want to be known as a championship team, which we are. We have rich with history, but we want to be on the upper echelon of the league at all times, and every team around the league. It doesn't matter who my counterparts throughout this country would all answer the same way, but we really want to, Well, I'll tell you what Amar Doman's vision is, our owner, and I echo it 100%. We believe we lost a generation, and there used to be, in the 70s and 80s, a lot of the stadiums across the country here and in Edmonton and others, were getting 40, 45, 50,000 people a game, and then it dropped. And we believe that when you have that kind of success, it doesn't erode overnight, and so all of a sudden, the league was declining in attendance, and I don't think the league moved quick enough to change that. And so when Amar first bought the team, he said, we lost a generation. There's a generation of people that loved it, then it fell off, and how do we get it back? So we're really, really, really focusing on kids, families, and the younger generation. And so we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're focusing on. And so we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And so that's what we're really trying to get that going. And and we want to regenerate the youth, if you will. If you come to Lions games now, you will see it is full of kids. It is full of young adults, that 20-something having a good time. It's not just the older generation. They're still there. They still love it, but we got to keep replenishing. So that's very important to us. And we want our brand to be something that people are proud to wear. When I first moved to British Columbia, I could not see anywhere people wearing BC Lions brands. Now it doesn't matter where I go. Every day, where I walk, I see someone wearing a hat or a shirt or a jersey. And so that, as well as a sign that things are moving in the right direction. So the pride.
Stop them and be like, "Hey, nice hat."
There's people that I'll wear a hat, and people will come up to me all the time and say, "Hey, are you a Lions fan?" I say, "Absolutely," and that's all I say.
Sure.
But it's we have a lot of pride in that. So it's really about re-energizing the youth, re-energizing the brand. We believe, and this is a little bit self-serving, but we believe it's cool to be a Lions fan again.
The Toddcast podcast is powered by Milano Coffee, bringing you the finest espresso and coffee concepts in the world. Online at milanocoffee.ca.
Talking to me makes it seem like you practiced all your lines. You accounted for every word except the ones that were mine. You always get upset when I try to tell you what's on my mind. You seem to forget it. Don't got any strength left in this heart of mine. Hurting a little bit, hurting a little bit more than I'm used to. Hurting a little bit more than I'm used to. I just wanna work together, but we're fighting all the time. We never dress for the weather, now we're freezing all the time. I know it's hard to see this eye to eye. I know it's hard to set aside your pride. I don't wanna lose you again. No, I don't wanna be missing you in the end. I'm hurting a little bit, hurting a little bit more than I'm used to. Hurting a little bit more than I'm used to. Hurting a little bit, hurting a little bit more than I'm used to. Hurting a little bit more than I'm used to. I finally realized I don't need a lie. I finally took the time to read between the lines. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm hurting a little bit, hurting a little bit more than I'm used to. Hurting a little bit more than I'm used to. Hurting a little bit, hurting a little bit more than I'm used to. Hurting a little bit more than I'm used to. 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 More than I'm used to.
And now, stop me if you've heard this before. on the Toddcast podcast.
You've known about Widemouth Mason since the mid-90s. Their songs Midnight Rain and My Old Self were big radio hits. Their sound is unmistakable. Blues, rock, funk combined. They're all killer players. They were inducted into the Western Canadian Music Hall of Fame last year in 2024. They've played with some of rock's biggest, AC/DC, the Rolling Stones, ZZ Top. And when Widemouth Mason singer Sean Varreau was a guest, we talked about his early years of playing. Vancouver band Mother Mother came up and how social media can blow up your band. The Vancouver Canucks, we talked about his love of Prince. We talked about the COVID years, Trump's tariffs, seeing INXS in concert, growing up to the Beatles, Steve Miller, Air Supply. Both of Sean's parents recently passed away. He brought that up. And stop me if you've heard this before. Sean talked about the tenacity of his manager at a certain gig in Saskatoon with Big Sugar and how that moment played a key role in his band's success.
We did a gig in Saskatoon, and our manager at the time just goaded Gordy Johnson, because Big Sugar were headlining it, going, "You need to see my band. You need to see my band." And to make him go away, he said, "I'll come watch the first couple songs from the soundboard." And at the end of it, he came in our dressing room and went, "What are you guys doing for the next month and a half? I want you to open our tour." And Dig in a Hole had just come out, and they had a sold out tour across Canada from coast to coast. And that was the seed of our audience across the country. We'd gotten in fighting shape from playing all these little places that people were angry at the color of 2/3 of the band's skin in. And we were ready when there was a room that was geared a little bit toward us. It was fish in a barrel compared to what we'd been doing. And then from there, the first couple singles came out, and you remember it was a totally different music industry then, right? Every city had a rep from every record company who had relationships, and there were multiple weekly newspapers and daily newspapers and breakfast TV shows. So we just did all that stuff, man. We'd do promo for hours around every show and then go hang at a Seafox or something, talking to people after sound check, and then head over to the gig and built it up one person at a time.
Stop Me If You've Heard This Before on the Toddcast podcast is powered by the Homedwell Group. Buying a house? Selling your home? Contact Kyle at homedwell.ca today.
Hey pretty baby, don't you walk away. I got a little more I'd like to say to your eyes. Won't escape my desire. Hey devil woman, don't you understand? You make it hard for me to be a man and survive. I never felt so alive. And so you found those old rusty chains. You locked me up and then you stole me in the night. She's wearing black now.
feeling that our show in February is going to be outstanding. So the band is called Quadrasound, and a cool song for those guys. It's called She's Wearing Black. They're from the island, but they're coming over. They're making the way over to Vancouver at the end of February on February 27, Friday night. Blue Light Studio. It's the Toddcast podcast, volume 47 of the sesh. So it's Chase the Bear, Quadrasound. We played Chase the Bear, an older song for those guys, called Hurtin', and both bands will be playing. So 45-minute sets. I'll interview the bands during the performance, but you can also ask the band's questions, which is pretty cool. If you've been, you know, right? They're just super intimate nights. Early bird tickets are only $22 right now through eventbrite.ca. 22 bones or 27 if you wait for the door. Again, our shows start at 8. We open the doors at 7. Okay, so let's get to our final guests of this episode 382, this week's entertainment and lifestyle guests. So author Mark Hagenson jumped to Zoom with us in mid-July. So imagine you're in an airplane and it gets hijacked. Some dude comes out of the restroom wearing a balaclava, shotgun in hand. Dynamite is taped to his body. Well, that happened to Mark's dad, Air Canada Captain Nels Hagenson. Air Canada Flight 812 was hijacked in 1971.
This guy, my dad had a flight in 71 from Vancouver to Montreal with stopovers in Calgary and Toronto scheduled. And out of Calgary, this fella gets on. His name's Paul Sini, in a big long beige trench coat, and they took off from Calgary. And remember, this is before metal detectors. They starting to come in use. Only Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal had metal detectors. Calgary had.
What a crazy concept and what a crazy thought. Like, what?
No, right? Calgary had a roving metal detector, was my understanding, so it could go to certain gates, but they pretty much only used it on the international gates. Wow. From my research. But anyway, this guy security with a sawed-off shotgun and 54 sticks of dynamite on his person in a taped up Woolco shopping bag.
So you said he made it past security with all of that shit?
Yeah. There was basically no security for domestic flights. You just,
again, 1971 here.
Yeah. You just get on. And so he went. He sat in first class. He had a first class ticket, and this is in the age when there was a lounge in the front, where, it was basically like a bar almost, between first class and the cockpit. And he had a couple of screwdrivers, which was his poison. And about an hour into the flight, 45 minutes to an hour into the flight, he got up his shopping bag into the lavatory, as they're known, and put on a balaclava, a black balaclava, and a wig forward into the lounge, and waited for the purser, as they're known back then, or steward, a fellow named John Arpin, came forward to check on him, and he had his shotgun out by this time, and he said, "Sit the hell down." It was crazy, and John couldn't believe that this was actually happening. He sat down. A little while later, Mary Dowie, the stewardess, she came forward because he was basically missing. And he had her sit down and had the shotgun up to her temple, he pulled out of this Woolco bag, and had her keep the two wires apart with her, and he told her that if those two wires touch, it's game over.
Like what? Only Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal had metal detectors? Crazy to think, right? Only 3 places had metal detectors back in the day. So Mark talked about writing his book, The Doomsday Flight. And during our conversation, he says, on the way to Great Falls, he accidentally discharges the shotgun. The hijacker shoots the shotgun mid-flight. Listen to Mark talk about the sentencing and the accolades for the flight crew.
He got sentenced to 4 life terms for hijacking, 14 years for extortion, and 10 years for illegal possession of dynamite and a prohibited weapon. While he was awaiting trial, he was remanded to the Ponoka Mental Hospital, which is like, I think it's between Edmonton and Red Deer, something like that. And in the middle of winter, he escaped through a bathroom window in the middle of the night, wearing only those light blue scrubs and slippers. We made it about an hour down the highway towards Red Deer in 20 below weather on the highway, and the RCMP recaptured him, shivering and begging to be taken back to the warmth of the hospital.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah. So then, Mary Dowie, she became the first living recipient of the Cross of Valor, which is highest honor for. She was given it by both Queen Elizabeth and Pierre Trudeau at the time, the Prime Minister. And she stayed on as a flight attendant until 91, had PTSD, but dealt with it. The purser, John Arpin, he got the Star of Courage, and the captain, Vernon Eamon, he was awarded the Medal of Bravery, the second and third highest awards Canada can bestow for bravery.
A wild story.
So, yeah.
This is definitely a conversation worth diving into. He got sentenced to 4 life terms for hijacking, 14 years of extortion, 10 years of illegal possession of dynamite. All of our stuff, of course, is on YouTube. Mid-August, you heard actress-singer Rosita Young on the cast. She just goes by Rosita, though. And ever since she was a little kid, like 4 years old, she always wanted to be on TV. Born in Jackson, Mississippi, raised in Los Angeles, you've seen her in a lot of stuff. Synchronic in 2019, Bolden in 2019, The Gateway in 2021, Grudge Match, 12 Years a Slave, Finding Happy, and Roots. And as mentioned, Rosita is an actress-singer. So which came first?
I would say they came around the same time when I was in high school. I was always like in advanced classes, so I ran out of classes to take. I went to Inglewood High School in Los Angeles County. And the principal put me in band. Like, she just didn't ask me. She just was like, okay, you're going to be in music and band. I'm like, okay. She was like, you need another elective. I don't know what to tell you. So
right. So you've got her to thank then, at least.
Yeah. So I was under the direction of Conrad Hutchinson, who his father, who was also named Conrad Hutchinson, he, I don't know if you ever heard of like Battle of the Bands and how in the South, the HBCUs, like they do like this whole big thing with bands where they march, they play all types of music from jazz to hip hop. His dad was the band director at Grambling State. So he used to show us all these videos of how he wanted us to do what they were doing, because a lot of bands in the LA area, they were just walking. Like, they would just walk. He called them walking bands. He's like, no, we're not walking bands. We're a marching band. So that just kind of, it's almost like theater, because you incorporate music with dance, because you would like the drum leaders and section leaders, like they would do back bends, flips. Like it would be like, it's a whole show. So
yeah,
that's
like
what really got me into music. Yeah. And I had already started listening to music more than TV anyways, because it was around that time that we only had one TV in the household and it broke. Like, it just stopped working. So my mom was like, look, I can't afford to replace it right now. So we just pulled out the radio and we never did replace it. It just got to the point where it was like, okay, I prefer music over watching TV anyways. So at that point, we didn't need it. Okay. And then the acting came in literally around the same time. I was always going up to the library, and we had this magazine called Backstage Magazine, where it was just industry news and everything. And like the librarians used to sneak me a copy of the magazines because they knew like I really wanted to be in entertainment. And I flipped to the back; they had classifieds, and I called this number that said, it was like, "Hey, this is Tony, and I'm doing an ad. Like, I'm looking for teens for Nickelodeon." I was like, okay. So we called. He asked to speak with my mom, of course. And then the next thing you know, like, we were on Nickelodeon on Sunset, like the studio I used to always pass by, and it was crazy. So everything happened at once.
Love that, talking about the marching band. It's almost like theater, she says, because you incorporate music with dance. So Rose also talked about starting up and building her career in high school, creativity flowing as she shared her love of the NBA and the shock of Kobe Bryant's death. Aliens came up, so did the Teen's Choice Awards, Ice Cube, Nickelodeon, and her awesome career highlight.
Oh, I did a scene with Anthony Mackie in Synchronic.
Cool. And so you're shaking as you're getting on scene and like walk us through, like you're talking back and forth.
Yes.
Before. Like, how does that work? Like you kind of go back and forth before or no?
No. Like I seen him on set, like they keep you in holding. So you're in your trailer, he's in his. And then when it's time to bring you in the room for the scene, a runner goes and gets you and they go get him. And you guys are on the scene together. And it's like, hi, you introduce you like, and then you it's kind of weird. It's like, I know you're Anthony Mackie, but you're like, hi, I'm Anthony. And I'm like, I know. I'm like, oh, Rose, you know.
That's great.
So yeah, he was he's very like, okay, when you're on set, you got to be respected. Like I was trying to ask a question and some people were talking and he kind of stood on the chair and he's like, Rose is talking. She's asking a question. We have to respect her. And she is an artist. I'm like, oh, I like that. He was like, you got to respect her time. So I started telling people that when people, I feel like people were disrespecting my time, I said, you have to respect my time.
Right.
And it's just like learning from him. And yeah, he taught me a lot that day about like actors' choices whenever you're acting, like just certain things you could do from like moving your head one direction to like, you know, because sometimes as actors, we get a little, I don't want to say scared, but you know, we don't want to switch the script too much. We don't want to add too many doings and things in there that the writer doesn't have in there because sometimes I can get offended.
Sure.
But like he taught me some tips on how to kind of get like a happy medium in there. So.
She goes, he kind of stood there on the chair. He was like, Rose is talking. She's asking a question. We have to respect her. She's an artist. Must have been pretty cool for Rosita to have the floor like that. And at the tail end of September, author and retired spy Gavin Stone was a guest. Here's a former spy for the British Ministry of Defense, 20 years of intelligence and covert ops, a recognized expert in body language. Listen to Gavin talking about one of his first missions as a spy.
One of my first, and I've said this publicly before, so there's no problem with this, but one of my very first intelligence assignments was quite simple. And I have told people I was Hollywood educated, so I was kind of expecting to be sat in a room and given a slideshow and an exploding watch and an Aston Martin and, you know, and all the other bits and pieces. And I didn't get any of that. I had one sentence. And they looked at me and they said, find out how the Russians are getting railgun information out of Korea. I thought, okay. No Aston Martin, no slideshow, no gadgets, no nothing. And instead what I got was, what are you still doing here? Okay. And that was all I had. That was everything I had. So yeah. And luckily I managed to do it within a few days, proved myself, went back and completed the task. And they were like, okay, you've impressed us. There's more work.
I love that. He goes, I was kind of expecting to be sat in a room and given the slideshow, an exploding watch, an Aston Martin, and then it's nothing like that. It's just too funny. Truly a real-life James Bond, ex-spy, covert ops, 2 decades with the British Ministry of Defense. Gavin's book, How to Tell If Someone Is Lying, is part tradecraft manual. It's part crash course in psychology. And it's a surprisingly candid interview about his skills and how they translate outside of espionage, right? We talked about what spy Q intelligence training is. It's for you basically to become a spy. Soccer, outdoors, Queen and Whitesnake came up. We talked family, traveling, and what should you watch out for when you're traveling?
So I actually, my wife goes crazy because we go traveling a lot and whatever else. And one of my common practices, I take a little rubber door wedge with me. And that way, whichever hotel room we're in, I'll kind of kick it in under the doors or just an extra layer of security. It's just one of those things that I've done out of habit for years. Working in the trade, it's been something that could end up buying you an extra valuable few seconds in order to either arm yourself, get out, do whatever you need to do. So there's lots of things like that I'll do. I'll roll up a towel, I'll put it behind the door in the hotel room, because I personally have used a method to get into hotel rooms where sometimes you can pull the panel off and you can pick the lock. And other times there isn't a manual override and it's an electronic key fob and whatever else. And they're not easy to get into from the outside, but the inside, you just pull the handle down. So what I did on this one particular occasion, the hotel had got this trunking, electronic trunking from one light to another. And I just peeled the kind of, I don't know whether you want to call it a lid or whatever that went on the top, peeled that off. I got some duct tape and some paracord and run it around the end, and I pushed the two through the door. I pulled the paracord that bent the trunking like paneling up, and then just slid it sideways, and then pulled the two down, which pulled the handle down and allowed me to get into the hotel room. So it's little things like that, little tricks of the trade and little tips like that, that, I mean, again, my book's absolutely loaded with them. What it does, it allows me to know that can be done. And to counter it, just roll up a towel and stick it behind the door handle in your hotel room.
And what's the deal with the two-way mirror where like you can tell if they're seeing you? How do you tell that?
Yeah, so best thing to do there is just put your fingernail against it, or even a pen. Just touch a pen against it. And the saying in the trade is, if there's no gap, it's a trap. So because mirror has the mirror material is on the back of the glass. So depending on the thickness of the glass, there should be a gap of the thickness of the glass between you and the mirror material. If there's no gap, then it's a two-way mirror because it's not the materials on this side rather than the rear of the mirror.
Subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, and Spotify at Toddcast Podcast. I was lost inside, didn't have a purpose. I was functioning only on the surface. But you came along and you really saw me. So I ran to you, then I knew I could be finally safe.
time I hear that song, it always reminds me of the Wallflowers and that, come on, try a little. It's got the same kind of, I don't know if that's chord changes or progressions or whatever the hell it is, but it's a new song for Alex Little. It's called Finally Safe in the World, and was talking with her about playing a podcast show at some point this year. You get the feeling that she will absolutely kill in that environment, acoustic and intimate, telling stories. Blue Light Studio is such a great little spot for these live shows. As we take a second to thank all of our guests before wrapping things up, appreciate everyone taking the time to jump a Zoom and share their stories. Officially in the bag. Let's mark this one. Check done. Episode 382. My name is Todd Hancock. Thank you again for listening, for being there. And tell your friends about us, okay? We're part of the Realm.fm network. They're based out of New York City. If you want more podcasts, fiction and nonfiction, again, Realm.fm. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Megaphone. All of the videos, we post them up at our YouTube channel. And if you comment and rate the podcast, it helps out. Gets the search results and all those engines going towards us. Of course, Toddcast podcast. Massive thanks to all of our excellent sponsors. You can find all sponsor websites at toddhancock.ca. If you would like to sponsor the podcast, you can for as little as $10 a day, by the way. There's contact info at the homepage. And if you help us find a sponsor, we will give you a commission. Yeah. Till next time, don't be an asshole, because nobody wants to be around that. Nobody. Have fun, play hard, and most of all, believe in yourself.
You've been listening to the Toddcast podcast, powered by Citywide Mortgage Services, dedicated to helping you find the best mortgage rates. Available 7 days a week at citywidemortgage.ca.
For 8 years, we've been asking the same question over and over again. How did this happen? My name's Mandy.
And I'm Melissa, and we're the hosts of Moms and Mysteries, the true crime podcast with over 55 million downloads.
We're two Florida moms who are obsessed with mysteries. Each week, we do deep dives into fascinating true crime stories.
We cover everything from infamous cases like Casey Anthony
to the bizarre and complex crimes right here in our home state, like the shocking murder of FSU professor Dan Markell.
We bring you the facts, but with warmth and wit you'd only get from two friends who have been hooked on mysteries since childhood.
Join us for new episodes of Moms and Mysteries every Tuesday and Thursday.
Listen to Moms and Mysteries on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast.
Oh, please, not that music. That music gives me nightmares from my childhood.
Could we get something a little bit lighter, some lighter music here?
Are you a fan of true crime TV shows?
And what about Unsolved Mysteries, the show that jump-started all of our love of true crime?
I'm Ellen Marsh.
And I'm Joey Taranto.
And we host I Think Not, a true crime comedy podcast covering some of the wildest stories from your favorite true crime campy TV shows all the way to Unsolved Mysteries.
Baby, you will laugh, you will cry, you'll think about true crime in a whole new way, and you'll also ask yourself, who gave these people mics?
New episodes of I Think Not are released every Wednesday, with bonus episodes out every Thursday on Patreon.
And every Monday, you can listen to our True Crime Rundown, where we go over the top true crime headlines of the week.
So come and join us wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Oh, the Regency era. You might know it as the time when Bridgerton takes place, or the time when Jane Austen wrote her books. But the Regency era was also an explosive time of social change, sex scandals, and maybe the worst king in British history. And on the Vulgar History podcast, we're going to be looking at the balls, the gowns, and all the scandal of the Regency era. Vulgar History is a women's history podcast, and our Regency era series will be focusing on the most rebellious women of this time. That includes Jane Austen herself, who is maybe more radical than you might have thought. We'll also be talking about queer icons like Anne Lister, scientists like Mary Anning and Ada Lovelace, as well as other scandalous actresses, royal mistresses, rebellious princesses, and other lesser-known figures who made history happen in England in the Regency era. Listen to Vulgar History wherever you get podcasts.